In order to develop your philosophy of education, you need to have a good understanding of child-centered versus teacher-centered classrooms. So that's what we're going to look at today. The first style we're looking at is a teacher-centered classroom. You might also hear this called a subject-centered classroom. In this classroom, the teacher is in full control of the lesson. They are the formal authority in the classroom. There is a lot of direct instruction going on in the classroom. Usually you would think of more of a lecture style classroom where the teacher is up front teaching the lesson. Students are sitting individually at their desk, maybe taking notes, and then they're given homework later to do at home. In its simplest form, basically the teacher does the talking, students do the listening. The student is more of a passive learner in this classroom, and when I say that, that's because there is not a lot of interaction between students and limited interaction even between the teacher and the student. If there is, it's just the student answering specific questions that have a definite answer. There are no opinionated questions that would be coming out in this classroom. It would just be a yes or no, right or wrong kind of answer. Usually you would see students pretty quiet in this classroom, a well-organized classroom. In this classroom, the teacher would expect students to figure out the material. It's up to them to figure out how to understand and learn the material and to get by in the class. Now, I don't want you to think that in this classroom there is no help from the teacher, but it's more of a structured classroom, and there is appropriate times where the student could come and ask for questions and get help from the teacher, but a lot more of the responsibility is placed upon the student. In this classroom, the teacher would keep moving forward with the lessons, and it would be up to the student to stay caught up. And if they felt like they were getting behind, they would need to figure out how to keep up with the rest of the class or to keep up with the teacher. The next type of or style of classroom is a student-centered classroom. You might also see this referred to as child-centered or learner-centered classroom. In this classroom, the teacher or the students are a lot more active in the learning process. The teacher is more of a facilitator in the classroom as opposed to the teacher-centered classroom. Here, the students take a lot bigger role in what's going on, what's happening in the classroom. There's a lot more interaction between teacher and student, and also between students. In this classroom, you'd probably see a lot more cooperative learning, where they're working together, group work, interacting with each other, students taking the lead in what they're learning, and then the teacher often would build off of that. If a student asks a question about something, this would be a classroom where the teacher might go ahead and spend some time discussing or building. Lesson plans could change a little bit with this style of teaching as opposed to the teacher-centered, because with this one, the teacher would adapt to student needs and student interests and build off of those immediate learning experiences. A quote for this classroom is that the purpose of education is to enlighten the student as to how to use their own mind rather than fill it with facts for a test. So this classroom would be less emphasis placed on memorizing dates and times and names, and more emphasis on problem solving, working together, voicing your opinion, listening to other people's opinions, more of a democracy in the classroom. A major goal of a student-centered classroom is to develop independent learners and lifelong learners.